From WNYE Studios in Brooklyn, New York, it's time for It's a Question of Ethics. And here's the host of It's a Question of Ethics, your personal trainer at the Conflicts of Interest Board, Jay Burstein.
Thank you, Gina. Hi, everybody, and welcome to It's a Question of Ethics, the game show that puts your knowledge of New York City's ethics law to the test to find out what your ethics quotient is. The law, contained in Chapter 68 of the City Charter, is commonly known as the Conflicts of Interest Law, and it deals with the conflict that might arise for any city employee between his or her public duties and personal interests. Our contestants on the show are current city employees working at the Board of Education. I would like to remind you that the law affects all city employees and officers, as well as elected officials of every city agency, including the Board of Education. Taking a look at our game board, we see that our contestants will be challenged to answer questions regarding the Conflicts of Interest law from the following categories: gifts and honoraria, moonlighting, part-time officers and employees, volunteer and political activities, grab bag, and finally, post-employment, regarding restrictions on what city employees may do after leaving city service. Let's meet today's contestants, all employees of the Board of Ed. Simon, Lynn, and Pike. Simon, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Jay. I'm Simon Oakland, a community school board member from Queens. I want to make sure I'm up to speed on the law. I think I know it pretty well, and I hope to win today.
Well, great to have you here today, Simon, so welcome and good luck. Lynn, how are you and who are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My name is Lynn Johnson. I teach 5th grade at the Sam Peckinpah Elementary School in Staten Island. I've been working in the school system for about 4 years, and I didn't even know about the Conflict of Interest law until last year when I was looking for a second job. Since then, I've learned a lot about the law, and I'm confident I'll do really well.
Well,
today.
Great to have you here today, Lynn, and good luck. Okay, Pike, your turn, the moment you've been waiting for.
Hi, Jay. I'm Pike Bishop, and I do purchasing for the Board of Education. I do a lot of work with the public and with vendors, and I've even had some training in ethics law. So I'm really confident that I'm the one that's going to be the winner today.
Well, great. We've got 3 winners today. Good luck to you too, Pike. Now that we've met our contestants, let's meet our panel of judges and official scorekeepers, 3 experts in the Conflict of Interest law who will help us out with explanations to some of our difficult questions today. Our first judge is Peter Nadler, an associate counsel in the enforcement unit of the Conflicts of Interest Board. Isabeth Gluck, an assistant counsel on the staff of the Conflict of Interest Board, also in the enforcement unit. And finally, Jennifer Siegel, an assistant counsel for the board in the legal advice unit. A reminder that any city employee can obtain free advice on the Conflict of Interest law by contacting the Conflict of Interest Board. And maybe you'll even get to speak to Peter, Beth, or Jennifer. We'll tell you more on obtaining advice from the board at the end of this program. But right now, let's get the show on the road and play It's a Question of Ethics. We drew cards before the show, and Simon will begin. So the board's all yours. Pick a category and a value amount.
Great, Jay. Let's start with gifts and honoraria for 200 points.
The school PTA selects a teacher as Teacher of the Year and gives her a plaque. Is this okay?
I would like to think it's okay. I mean, if someone does a good job, they should be rewarded. I'll say yes.
You're off to a good start, Simon. Generally, this would be okay, with a provision. The Conflict of Interest Board has established $150 as the maximum value of such an award that any city employee may receive. So as long as the value of the plaque does not exceed $150, it's fine. 200 points for you, Simon, and you pick again.
Okay, let's try to do just as well in another category. Let's try moonlighting for 200 points.
A Board of Ed secretary takes a job working nights and weekends for a firm that does business with the New York City Department of Consumer Affairs. Is this okay?
Sure, why not? I'll say yes.
There goes the streak, Simon. Sorry, but that's an incorrect answer. Let's check with our panel of judges to see exactly why. Judges?
Okay, Jay. Sorry, Simon, but a city employee is not permitted to accept a second job with any person or firm that does business with the city. However, waivers are available in some cases when a city employee wants to work with a firm doing business with the city. For example, before the secretary could work for this company, he or she would have to get an approval letter from the Chancellor's office and forward it on to the Conflicts of Interest Board. In such a case, the Conflicts of Interest Board would consider whether the secretary's job with the private firm would conflict with the purposes and interests of the city. If the Conflicts of Interest Board decided there was no conflict, it would probably grant a waiver and the secretary could take the job. However, the secretary would not be able to work on the firm's business dealings with the city.
Thanks, Peter. Sorry, Simon. Okay, Lynn, it's your turn.
Great, Jay. Let's start off with a bang. Let's try volunteer activities for 500 points.
Starting off with a bang, huh? Okay.
You serve without pay on the board of directors of a not-for-profit organization that receives a grant from the Parks Department, but has no dealings with the Board of Education. Is this okay?
I think it's okay as long as I recuse myself from voting on city-related issues. I say yes, it's okay.
And yes is the correct answer for 500 points. Well done. Judges, what's the ruling here?
Any city employee may serve on the board of directors of a not-for-profit that deals with another city agency. There are many requirements a city employee must follow in such case. First, the city employee must not have anything to do with the decision-making process or with business dealings with the city. Furthermore, the work for the not-for-profit must not be a paid position, and all the volunteer work must be done on the employee's own time. In addition, the city employee could not use city resources or personnel in doing the volunteer work.
Thank you, Beth. Well done, Lynn. Pick again.
Let's go to moonlighting for 100 points.
Okay, the question is, a teacher would like to tutor the siblings of 3 of his students after school as a side job. Is that all right?
I think no. I'll say no. I'll say no.
Very good. While teachers have an excellent built-in client base, they are prohibited from tutoring students in their own school, as well as siblings of those students. Also, they're not allowed to advertise their services anywhere on Board of Ed property or in any Board of Ed publication. However, teachers may advertise in publications of the PTA of other parent organizations of other schools. So you've earned 100 points and time to pick again.
Oh, let's stay with moonlighting for 300 points.
A high school math teacher has written a math book on her own time. Her publisher wants to sell the book to the Board of Ed schools, including the teacher's own school. Is that okay?
I don't think so. I think there's a problem with where the book is being sold. I say no.
Well done, Lynn. There are actually a few restrictions in this regard. Let's go back to our panel of judges to answer this.
Well, Jay, as wonderful as this may be, in order to prevent any possible conflicts of interest or even the appearance of such a conflict, the teacher would first need an approval letter from the Chancellor's office. Then the teacher would need a waiver from the Conflicts of Interest Board. However, the high school teacher could not accept any royalties from the sale of the book to his or her school. In the case of an elementary, intermediate, or middle school teacher writing a book, he or she would not be able to accept royalties from the sale of the book to the entire district where his or her school is located. Also, keep this point in mind. Any teacher who wants to sell a book to the Board of Ed cannot be on a school district book selection committee or be involved in any sales of the book to the Board of Ed. But with all the other schools out there you can sell to, don't get too discouraged about writing that great book, Lynn, okay?
You're on a roll, Lynn. Make your next pick.
Let's try part-time officers and employees for 100 points.
As an unsalaried community school board member, I am not covered by the city's ethics law. True or false?
Well, you don't get paid, so you're not covered by the law. I'd say true.
Oops. Sorry, Lynn, but community school board members, such as the gentleman standing next to you, are covered by the Conflict of Interest Law and must adhere to its provisions. Pike, you never thought we'd make it down to you, did you? Your pick.
Great. I've read a lot about the gifts rule, so let's try gifts and honoraria for 500 points.
The question is, the members of a community school board each receive a $100 gift certificate from a publishing company that does business with the Board of Education.
I know this one. I know this one. Absolutely not.
You're off to a good start, Pike. With that correct answer, you've got 500 points. Let's find out exactly why you're right on this one from our judges.
I've got this one, Jay. The Conflicts of Interest Board has set $50 as the maximum allowable value of any gift to any city employee from any person or firm that does business with the city. That means any city agency, including the Board of Ed. As Pike mentioned, this is known as the valuable gift rule. The rule refers to one gift of $50 or more, or a succession of smaller gifts totaling $50 or more in any 12-month period. By gift, we mean cash, meals, tickets to concerts, plays, or other events, or other material items. But, and this is an important but, the recipient of any gift should always be cautious as to the gift giver's motive before accepting it. Generally speaking, while a gift may seem innocent enough at the time, there may be expectations of a payback sometime later. Depending on the circumstances, the Conflicts of Interest Board might find that the acceptance of a gift worth less than $50 still violates the city's ethics laws if the community school board member used his or her position to obtain the gift. So, good answer, Pike.
Thanks, Peter. Okay, Pike, where do we go next?
Let's stick with gifts for 100.
A class collectively contributes to a $60 fruit basket for their teacher for the end-of-the-year holidays. Is this okay?
Since it's the whole class and not just one student, I'll say yes.
Right again. Even though the gift is worth more than $50 in this case, as you mentioned, a number of students contributed smaller amounts of money to buy the basket. But the gift must be identified as being from the entire class, not from individual students. Okay, Pike, do it again.
Let's try post-employment for 300.
A teacher quits her job at the Board of Ed in May to do consulting work for an educational testing firm. Can she meet with the Board of Ed officials in July to sell them tests?
I know about this one. Since she quit, I'll say yes.
Sorry, Pike. That's an incorrect answer. I can see that our panel of judges is all excited about this one. It must come up a bit. Judges, what's the rule here?
Well, Jay, Pike, all city employees are prohibited from appearing before their former agencies for the period of 1 year. This includes, of course, Board of Ed employees. The prohibition means that Board of Ed employees may not write letters, make phone calls, attend meetings, or have other contacts with the Board of Ed on business-related issues. This doesn't mean you can't have lunch with your old friends from the office or from the school. Now, this is a very important point to remember. A former Board of Education employee is not prohibited from working for a firm that does business with the Board of Ed. The restriction only prohibits the former employee from having contact with the Board of Ed on behalf of the firm for that 1 year period. This is to avoid the appearance of the real possibility of the former city employee exercising undue influence on his or her former agency. It also prevents the private firm from getting a special advantage because its employee has the inside track with the Board of Ed.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Beth. Thanks. Okay, we're back to the top of the order, and Simon, take your pick.
Okay, Jay, let's try the category I should know best. Let's go to part-time officers and employees for 200 points.
A community school board member rents an apartment in his two-family house to the superintendent in his district. Is this okay?
I've got to get this right. No, it's not okay.
Good choice. 200 points for you. Relax, judges. I'll handle this one. There's a rule prohibiting financial relationships between a superior and a subordinate. That includes lending money, other than a nominal amount, working side jobs together, owning property or businesses together, and a landlord-tenant relationship. This is to prevent the possibility of any expectation of a payback later on, or a one-hand-washes-the-other scenario. How did I do?
Couldn't have said it better myself, Jay.
Wise guy. Okay, Simon, there's a whole board full of unanswered questions. What's next?
Okay, let's stay with the same category for 400 points.
A community school board member works part-time for a not-for-profit organization that lobbies the Board of Ed on educational issues. Can he or she meet with the Board of Ed to discuss these matters?
Jay, I don't think I can lobby my own employer. I'll say no.
Give the man 400 points. The answer is no. Even as a part-time officer or employee, you cannot have a second job that requires you to appear before your own agency or even work on matters concerning that agency. Where do we go now, Simon?
Jay, let's mix it up a bit with the grab bag for 100 points.
The Board of Ed is considering purchasing a new state-of-the-art alarm system with brand new technology. You learned of this through your position at the Board of Ed, and you discussed this with a friend who's in this field. Is this okay?
I think so. The friend may give me some relevant information. I'll say yes.
Sorry, Simon, but this is not okay. This issue comes up a lot in our training classes, so let's go to our judges for some clarification on this question.
Well, Jay, since the use of this specific technology in this particular alarm system is not common knowledge, and the idea is still in the planning stages, it is considered to be confidential information. Discussing it with a friend would be divulging confidential information and a violation of the law. The law states that no public servant may disclose confidential information concerning the property, affairs, or government of the city, which is obtained as the result of the official duties of the public servant and which is not otherwise available to the public. In other words, if the information could be obtained through the Freedom of Information law or had been published in a newspaper, for example, there would not be a conflict here. However, there would be two violations if the information was confidential and used in order to benefit either directly or indirectly the public servant or any other person or firm associated with the public servant. And by the term associated with, we mean basically family and anyone you may have a financial relationship with. But it's best to discuss this with the Board of Ed's ethics officer or call the Conflicts of Interest Board before you speak to anyone about a not yet publicly known project.
Thanks, Jennifer. You can take a breath now. Your turn, Lynn.
Let's try grab bag for 200 points.
A community school board member's spouse is a partner in a firm that sells lawn seed and manure to the Parks Department. Is this okay?
I think it's okay, as long as they don't discuss city business dealings. I think it's okay.
Right you are, Lynn. This is okay. Let's go to the judges for this one.
As a part-time officer or employee of the Board of Education, a community school board member and his or her spouse or domestic partner is restricted from having an ownership interest only in a firm that does business with the Board of Ed. Since the firm does business with the Parks Department and not the Board of Ed, this is not a problem. However, the employee cannot use his or her Board of Ed position to help the spouse's firm. Keep in mind that with the passage of the Domestic Partners Bill, this restriction also includes registered domestic partners. And remember, the rule is different for full-time employees.
Okay, Lynn, what's next?
Let's stick with this category, grab bag for 500 points.
You've just started working full-time for the Board of Education, and you're partner in a firm that does business with the Department of Sanitation. Is this okay?
No. I think you have to get permission. I say definitely not.
Good for 500 points. Judges, what's the rule here?
You're right, Lynn. As a full-time employee, you are not allowed to have a financial interest in a firm that does business with any city agency. It is possible to get an order from the Conflicts of Interest Board allowing you to keep your ownership interest in that firm, but there are a number of restrictions on what you may do as a partner in that firm. It's likely that you wouldn't be able to take part in any kind of dealings between the firm and the city. This will also depend greatly on what your city job is and what your firm sells to what other city agency. This provision of the law is meant to prevent a city employee from getting an advantage, real or just a perceived advantage, over the competition in business dealings with the city. Basically, it helps to level the playing field.
Thanks, Beth. Lynn, still your turn.
Let's go back to volunteer and political activities for 100 points.
You work on the newsletter of your community cleanup group. Is this okay?
I don't see why not. It's okay.
Well done, Lynn. As long as your community group doesn't have any business dealings with the Board of Ed, and you personally don't involve yourself with any business dealings your group may have with the city. What's next?
Let's stick with volunteer and political activities for 300 points.
Okay, the question is, you want to be on the board of directors of a not-for-profit organization that deals with the Board of Ed. Is this okay?
That's a tricky question. I'll say no.
Sorry, Lynn, that's an incorrect answer. You look kind of perplexed. Judges, what's the rule here?
The city basically sees that volunteer work is an important part of keeping many not-for-profits operating, and that these not-for-profits perform very important functions in the lives of many New Yorkers. You would be able to serve on the board of directors if you got permission from the Chancellor's office stating basically that your position would be in the best interests of the city. You would be prohibited, however, from actively participating in any business dealings with the Board of Ed, so you would have to recuse yourself from any votes on matters between the not-for-profit and the Board of Education.
Thanks, Jennifer. So control of the board moves on down the pike to Pike. Where do we go from here?
Okay, let's stay right here with volunteer for 200.
And the question is, you volunteer as a basketball coach in a program sponsored by a not-for-profit with funding from the Board of Education. You have no administrative or decision-making authority. You just coach kids. Is this okay?
Yes. I think it's okay.
Right. In such a case, you don't need permission or approval. The Conflict of Interest Board has determined that when you're simply a volunteer without any authority at the not-for-profit, as long as you don't do the work of a paid employee, you don't need approval to volunteer there. Okay, Pike, what's your next pick?
Let's try post-employment for 500 points.
Going for the big bucks, huh? You retire from the Board of Ed where you did purchasing. 6 months later, you establish a consulting firm representing businesses that want to sell to the Board of Ed. Is this okay?
No, I know that you can't do that.
Very good. You can't, as a former employee, appear before your old agency for 1 year. So you can't make phone calls or attend meetings or write letters on behalf of your clients to the Board of Education. Since this is what is usually involved in consulting, with these restrictions in mind, you might have a hard time finding clients in the first year following retirement. So 500 points for you, and you pick again.
I think I want to stay with post-employment for 400 points.
A purchasing agent for the Board of Ed approved a contract with a particular firm 3 years before leaving the Board of Ed. Can she work for that firm? This is right up your alley, Pike.
I believe that I know this. At least I hope that I'm right. I'll say yes.
Right again for 400 points. Let's see what our judges have to say about this.
You're right, Pike. She can go to work for that firm, but she can't work on anything concerning that contract. The Conflicts of Interest law prohibits former employees from working on any particular matter they worked on personally and substantially while a city employee. By particular matter, we mean a contract or project for the life of that contract or project. If the original term of the contract expired and was renewed, it may be considered a new contract, and the employee can be involved. Since every contract is different, you must check with the Board of Ed's ethics officer or the Conflicts of Interest Board first.
Thanks, Peter. Okay, Pike, you're the boss. Where do we go next?
Well, let's go for an easy one. Stay in the same category for 200.
What was the...
Post-employment. Post-employment, 200. That's the one, yep.
Okay. You accept a new job with the State Board of Regents requiring you to appear before the Board of Ed regularly. Is this okay?
Yes. Wait. No. I mean no.
Should have stayed with your first impression. An incorrect answer. This is permissible under the government-to-government exception. Stated simply, this means that the knowledge and the expertise you bring from one city agency to another or to a municipal, state, or federal government agency do not pose a conflict of interest, and the government job would be totally allowable. So you've been taken down by the old government-to-government trick. Okay, let's see how Simon does this time around.
Okay, Jay, let's go back to where we started, this time for 300 points, gifts and honoraria.
The question is, a teacher is given a $200 World Atlas from a publishing company as a bonus or incentive for her class's book order. Is this okay?
Yeah, I think this is okay. It happens sometimes. It's considered a gift to the school and not the individual. I'll say yes.
Very good. Yes, as long as the book belongs to the school and not to the teacher. Even though the value of the atlas exceeds the $50 limit, the atlas is being used in the classroom, and it is therefore seen as a gift to the city, and it is permissible. So 300 points for you, and you retain control of the board.
Jay, let's moonlight for 400 points.
Question is, a teacher would like to be a counselor at a camp that is part of the Breakaways program. Is this okay?
Yes, Jay, this is a great program. I say yes.
Well done. 400 more points for you. Let's find out more about this from the judges.
Well, Jay, the Conflicts of Interest Board has decided that participants in this program should be granted waivers. The camp should write a letter to the Board of Ed's Office of Special Investigations listing all the teachers that will be working in the program. The lists will then be provided to the Conflicts of Interest Board, and those teachers will be granted a waiver. This is a very special program that truly benefits the students, and therefore, working for this program and for the Board of Ed does not constitute a conflict of interest. This also goes for other after-school programs run by the United Way or its affiliates.
Still your turn, Simon.
Let's change things up a bit. We'll try grab bag for 300 points.
A teacher retires from the Board of Ed after 25 years to work as a speech therapist for a firm that is a Board of Ed vendor. Can she provide therapy the following semester to children as part of the firm's contract with the Board of Ed?
Can I change the question? This is a tough one. I don't think so. I'll say no.
You gambled and it cost you 300 points. Sorry, Simon. Under ordinary circumstances, you would be right. This would not be allowed, but, well, let's let the judges explain this one.
The Conflicts of Interest Board tries to apply the law evenly in all cases, but when there is a shortage of particular professionals, we have to be flexible. Because there is a shortage of speech therapists and providers of other special education and related services, the Chancellor has usually, but not always, given an approval letter for requests of waivers for retired Board of Ed employees, but not for current employees or those who have left the Board of Ed before retirement. The Conflicts of Interest Board has often granted waivers in the cases where the Chancellor has given his approval. Because the Board of Education's needs and shortage areas may vary, you'll have to contact the Board of Education's ethics officer to obtain a waiver.
Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, Lynn, with that information in hand, it's your board. Name your poison.
I think I'll stay with this category, part-time officers and employees, for 500 points.
There's a contestant with confidence. The question is, a school board member asks a principal to consider her just graduated sister for the new phys ed teacher slot. Is this okay?
Oh, that's a no-no. My answer is definitely no.
Excellent answer. 500 points for you. Judges, would you care to go into this?
There are two reasons why this is a violation. First, according to the Conflicts of Interest law, no city employee, and this again includes all Board of Education employees, may use his or her official city position to obtain any personal advantage, including a job or contract for a close family member. That includes children, parents, spouses, brothers and sisters, and anyone with whom you have a financial relationship. In addition, there's the matter of the education law, which states that a community school board member can be removed for being involved in the hiring, appointment, or assignment of employees.
Sort of like that old Tennessee Ernie Ford song, 16 Tons. If the right one doesn't get you, then the left one will. Okay, Lynn, where do we go from here?
Let's go to grab bag for 400.
Question is, A principal hires a teacher at his school who is also a carpenter to install cabinets in his kitchen. Is that okay?
Well, I know they're not supposed to go into business together, but paying for services rendered, I think yes. Yes, definitely.
Well, Simon and Pike are happy. No, sorry, Lynn. This is still considered to be a financial relationship. This includes loaning money other than a nominal amount, owning a business together, as you mentioned, or hiring one another to perform some outside duty, including joint tutoring arrangements. Since the teacher is a subordinate to the principal, this is not allowed. And that gives Pike control of the board.
Let's go back to part-time officers and employees for 300.
And the question is, a part-time lunchroom attendant works weekends as an order picker at a grocery wholesaler that sells to the Board of Ed. Is this okay?
I think I remember this. Part-time employees are just like full-time employees in that you can't hold two jobs if somebody is in business with the Board of Ed. There has to be a waiver or permission granted by the chancellor and a waiver from the Conflict of Interest Board?
Excellent. Right. And as long as the Conflict of Interest Board sees no possible conflict, they probably would grant the waiver. So where do we go from here, Pike?
How about volunteer and political activities for 400?
The question is, a well-liked principal runs for city council and asks his teachers to work on his campaign. Is this okay?
Well, he's liked by the teachers, but, I don't think so. No, I'll say no.
Well done, Pike. That's a correct answer. You can't even ask your subordinates, whether they like you or not, to participate or contribute in a campaign, yours or somebody else's. Pike, where do we go from here?
I think I'd like to try post-employment for 100 points.
A firm with which you are doing business as part of your Board of Ed job says it could use a person like you, and you interview for a position there. Is that okay?
I think it's okay. I mean, it's got to happen every day.
Sorry, Pike. There are guidelines you'd have to follow if this were to happen. Judges?
You could pursue the opportunity, but first you'd have to remove yourself or have yourself removed from that project while negotiating for the position. Once the negotiations and decision process are over, you could return to the project. Also, the interviews have to be done on your own time. You couldn't use city supplies or personnel in your job search, and you cannot use your agency letterhead for any correspondence regarding the position. And you may not use your city position or any confidential information to benefit yourself in your job search or your prospective employer. The law here is looking to prevent any divided loyalties. It serves as a protection for the city employee, shielding that employee from being hired just because he or she is working on that particular project, and at the same time protects the city from being sold out for the price of the new job.
Simon, control of the board moves down to you.
Okay, Jay, I'm feeling lucky right now. Let's try moonlighting for the big 500 points. We'll go for broke.
Okay, make up for lost time. Question is, a principal's new spouse owns a cement firm that sells to the school construction authority. Is that okay?
I'll say no, unless they get permission first from the chancellor and the Conflict of Interest Board.
Well done, Simon. How about this one, judges?
A city employee whose spouse has an ownership interest in a firm that does business with the city is considered to have an ownership interest too. This is referred to as an imputed ownership interest, guilt by association. Because he is a full-time employee, the employee would have to ask the Conflicts of Interest Board for an order permitting the spouse to keep the ownership interest in that firm. When ownership is involved, permission from the Conflicts of Interest Board is called an order. In the case of permission for a moonlighting job or a volunteer activity, the permission is referred to as a waiver. Usually, the Board of Ed employee must get an approval letter from the chancellor first. Orders are usually granted, though not always, and under certain conditions, including a guarantee that the city employee have no involvement with the firm's business dealings with the city. Again, this is to prevent even the appearance of a city employee having a leg up. The effects would be far-reaching if the residents or business community of the city felt that the only way to get a city contract is to work for the city.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Sorry, Simon, but that means we're all out of time for today. But I have to say you've all played very well. Let's see exactly how well as we check in with Gina Miller for the official scoring.
I've got to say that all of our contestants did exceptionally well today. The scoring was pretty close. Simon and Lynn tied with 1,400 points, and our big winner today with 1,800 points was Pike. But Pike said he received training in the law, so he had a little bit of an advantage. Congratulations to all of you. By being as familiar with the law as you are all winners. And a very special thanks to our 3 judges today, Peter, Jennifer, and Beth. Our high scorer, Pike, is the winner of this glass apple paperweight, which I'm sure will come in handy somewhere in his office. You all played the game well, and it was great having you here today. Information on the Conflicts of Interest law is available to you too, simply by calling or writing the Conflicts of Interest Board. Their phone number is area code 212-442-1400. You can receive guidance from a staff attorney, anonymously if you prefer, by mail or phone. You can request some of our publications, which include Chapter 68, Rules of the Board, a wide array of single-subject flyers on the law in an easy-to-read format, or any of the other publications. By mail, the address is New York City Conflicts of Interest Board, 2 Lafayette Street, Suite 1010, New York City, New York, zip code 10007. With all that information, you can do well as a future contestant on It's a Question of Ethics.
Thanks, Gina. For the Conflict of Interest Board and the New York City Board of Education, I'm Jay Burstein. So long.